make reference to Tabatu in 2023, where 3 properties were burned to the ground, all because the municipality lacked a fire truck and was making use of firefighting buggies. Reference can also be made to Lipa, where this lack of a single operational fire truck took the lives of 3 children, all under the age of 12 during the 2020. In response to one of our oral questions in 2024, the former Premier Refilwe Msweni stated that the province has only 39 operational fire trucks. Let that sink in. In a province plagued by fell fires, we have only 39 fire trucks to save 17 municipalities and around 48 towns. In 2024 was a year where our dams in a number of municipalities dried out because of climate change. Tabatu, Chief Albert Tule, and Mpumalanga, all affected by the above. During this crisis, government, both provincial and national, seems to be very busy. But after the rains brought some relief to these residents, everything went silent. I even asked the Premier Mandla to detail a master plan that will avert this in the future, and almost a year later, we are still waiting. Climate change is something that is very serious and it requires competent leadership at all levels. We must take a stock of where we are lacking as a province and come up with detailed plans that ensure we will have funding and the necessary equipment to mitigate the harsh impact of climate change. We have to detail a water security strategy because we came very close to 3 towns not having a drop of water at all. And we must make a provision for disaster relief in our municipality budgets, even if it is something small. The municipality must have disaster equipment that are perfect and in good working condition. If broken, it must be treated with priority to ensure it is repaired as soon as possible. Municipalities must stop and remove people in potential flooding areas. Clean stormwater drains should be cleaned, as well as water furrows in our township, which became blocked every time by refuse being dumped inside them. They must also be cleaned at a regular pace because it also poses a threat to flooding in many townships. Honourable Speaker, let us be proactive in preventative measures rather than being known for condolences visit after all this happens where people have already died. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Monini, you are given 8 minutes.
Honourable Speaker, members of the Provincial Legislature, the Premier and members of the Executive Council and community members present, greetings to all of you this morning. Let me first acknowledge that as human beings, we live and coexist in an environment that we must protect for future generations to live and be productive. There's quite a plethora of issues affecting human lives, and in the last decade or so, we have witnessed unfamiliar changes in weather patterns where strange things have happened across the globe. Climate change is quite a serious issue affecting our daily life, ecosystem and industries. There are many reasons why climate change is shifting in our country, including province, for example, from pollution and deforestation and how we use energy. Honourable Speaker, South Africa's climate crisis, driven by the release of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane, stem mainly from human activities. Factors that causes climate change and predicament we find ourselves in are largely caused by heavy reliance on coal for energy, and South Africa is among the world's top 15 greenhouse gas emitters, largely due to its reliance on fossil fuels, deforestation and land use changes. Where, for example, agriculture, expanding farms and livestock grazing lead to land clearing, reducing tree cover. On urban development, as cities grow, more land is needed for housing, roads, and business. And on illegal logging, some forests are destroyed for timber, leading to habitat loss and more CO2 in the atmosphere. Lastly, some of the factors causing climate change are industrial and agricultural practices and road transport. As a province, we have witnessed and endured rising temperatures, extreme heat, which might have serious health hazards affecting our water supply due to high levels of evaporation. We have also witnessed more frequent and intense storms, leaving thousands of people displaced, roads damaged, and causing difficulties in transportation. The scourge of climate change also damages our biodiversity and wildlife, and our province as a tourist destination, more specifically our nature reserve, Kruger National Park, will bear the devastating implication as a result of this crisis facing us. Honourable Speaker, there are also economic and social impacts. Climate change doesn't just affect nature, it affects people's jobs, health, and the way of life. Some of the biggest economic and social consequences include job losses in agriculture, tourism, and fishing due to the extreme conditions and increased poverty. As farming communities struggle to survive in climate migration, where people are forced to leave their homes due to water shortages and natural disasters. As a country and our province, it is imperative to devise mechanisms to deal with climate change. Since this problem mainly stems from human activities, it is important to embark on an educational activity and broaden our scope so that people can equally take responsibility to mitigate it. We cannot assume that people know and understand climate change, its effects and implications. While climate change generally in South Africa, including our province, is a serious challenge, there's still hope. Our province, in our province, Minister of Mineral and Petroleum, Honorable Gordon Mantachi, officially unveiled the country's first pilot carbon capture, utilization and storage, known as CCUS, research site in Leandra. This landmark development follows the successful completion of a geological characterization study, including the drilling of a 1,800-meter stratigraphic borehole at the Goedehoop site, confirming its suitability for safe and permanent CO2 storage. This site presents a crucial step towards deploying CCUS technology as a viable solution to mitigate the CO2 emissions. South Africa is responsible for approximately 500 million tons of CO2 emissions annually, largely from coal combustion. This initiative is a critical step towards reducing our carbon footprint and requires public-private partnership to achieve South Africa's climate goal, which requires significant investment in technology and expertise. The country has many opportunities to slow down global warming, protect natural resources, and create a more sustainable future, from switching to clean energy to changing everyday habits. Here's how we can tackle climate change together. Our province will also benefit from government initiatives as South Africa's biggest power generator through renewable energy independent power producers procurement program, which has successfully integrated solar and wind projects into the national grid. Another impactful way to support renewable energy is by investing in solar power systems at home. Home solar panels lower electricity bills by reducing dependence on Eskom grids and avoid rising electricity costs. In ensuring that people are encouraged to install solar panels, government, through the South African Revenue Service, tax rebates. The solar tax rebate announced in 2023 allows households to claim 25% of the cost of solar panels up to 15,000 rands per individuals. Lastly, Honourable Speaker, we have to change agricultural practices because certain farming methods release high amounts of methane and nitrous oxide, which are potent greenhouse gases. Regenerative agricultural practices, including enhancing soil health, reducing livestock-related emission, direct seeding techniques, and using cover crops, support mitigations, improve resilience, and decrease the cost burden on farmers.
As you conclude, Honourable Member.
Also, the sustainable management and conservation of the forest is critical and the Forest Act as carbon sinks absorb carbon dioxide and reducing the overall concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Measures to reduce deforestation and forest degradation key to climate mitigation and generate multiple additional benefits such as biodiversity, conservation, water cycles. Honourable Speaker, we also have to restore and conserve critical ecosystems in addition to forest ecosystems such as wetlands, peatlands and grassland, as well as coastal biomes such as mangrove forests also contribute significantly to carbon sequestration. It is therefore my conviction that we must substantially mitigate the effects
Your
of
time is
climate
up,
change.
Honorable Member.
I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The time is up. Honorable Fenyane, 5 minutes.
No, thank you, Honorable Speaker, members of the legislature, Sanbonan. Honorable Speaker, Mpumalanga, with its 17 municipalities, faces a significant climate change challenges that impact its environment, economy, and also communities. I will also highlight some of the challenges and give some possible sustainable solutions to address these challenges. We will also be able to see if our government institutions are capacitated to deal with such challenges. Major climate change challenges in Mpumalanga are as follows. Agricultural impacts. Climate change impacts agricultural productivity, affecting food security, and also the livelihood of farmers and farming community. The challenges in rainfall patterns and increased evaporation that happens as a result of warmer temperature affect water availability, which very key to operation of pattern agriculture. Increased risk of wildfire. Climate change increases the risk of wildfires, which can have a devastating impact on the environment and communities. Wildfires are catastrophic and are a threat to all living beings. One cannot undermine the threat posed by climate change on our province, which rich biodiversity, which includes our ecosystem and wildlife. District municipalities, local municipalities, and most of our government institutions are faced with situations where there are limited resources, including funding, personnel, and infrastructure. This coupled with a lack of awareness programs to empower communities about what they need to do in preventing wildfires effectively and respond effect of climate change. As Mkhonto is a party, we are of the view that most of our municipalities do not have enough capacity and adequate resources to deal with the effects of climate change. We therefore propose that the following proactive measures and sustainable solutions be explored in order to mitigate the effects of climate change in our localities. Honorable Speaker, risk assessment and planning needs to be prioritized, wherein our institutions and government institutions can conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify areas prone to wildfires and develop emergency response plans. With that, we should also be investing in infrastructure that can withstand extreme weather events such as floods and also wildfires. Implementation of fire breaks and control plans should be intensified to reduce fuel loads and mitigate wildfire risk. Renewable energy resources investment like solar and wind power to reduce over a reliance of fossil fuels must be promoted. That should go hand in glove with sustainable land use planning, which promotes proactiveness. MKP proposes that municipalities must pay close attention to climate resilient agriculture, water conservation, and also disaster risk reduction. Honorable Speaker, in as much as the situation is not good regarding our state for preparedness to deal with the effect of climate change, there are opportunities that can be explored for sustainable development. Investment in green economy, including renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and ecotourism, is one opportunity that will also create jobs in the green economy, supporting sustainable development and power reduction.
Conclude, Honorable Member.
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Another opportunity will be the creation of partnership and collaboration among government, private sector, and civil society organizations to address climate change challenges and that in turn will create a platform for communities engagement where communities will develop and implement challenges, adaptation and mitigation strategies for climate change. Honourable Speaker, in closing, legislature, we need to develop or implement policies and laws that support climate change mitigation and adaptation. We also need to establish a monitoring and evaluation system to track their progress and adjust strategies. Honourable Speaker, we believe that proactive measures fostering collaboration and coordination and prioritizing climate resilient development, municipalities and government institutions can reduce the risk associated with climate change and wildfires. We therefore commit as MKP to work with anyone who seeks to reduce impacts of climate change and promote sustainable development. I thank you.
Honorable Malachi, you are given 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and greetings to your good self. Honorable Speaker, I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighter, guided by the courage of conviction and clarity of purpose enriched in our founding manifesto, to interrogate the readiness of Mpumalanga province at the provincial, district, and local municipal level to withstand and mitigate the compounding threat of climate change. Mpumalanga is at war. Am I audible, Honorable Speaker?
Proceed, Honorable Malachi.
Seems to me we are at war.
My apologies, man, my network. Mpumalanga is at war with climate crisis it did not create, but one whose brutal consequences are being felt through the rising temperature, water insecurity, soil degradation, deadly floods, and the collapse of ecological system. From Bushbuck Ridge to Lekwa, from Dr. Pixliga to Steve Chwete, our people remain vulnerable because of the state. The state is unprepared. Honorable Speaker, we must be frank. The province lacks coherent climate resilience strategy, and this failure trickles down to the 3 district municipalities, Ehlanzeni, Nkangala, and Gertsibande, where the integrated mitigation plans are being implemented effectively. In Nkangala, home of the coal-fired power station and emission-intensive industries, municipalities such as Tembisilehani, Victor Kanye, and Emalahleni continue to operate without enforcing air pollution controls, with children in Kwakuka inherit toxic dust daily. EFF reject this negligence. In Ehlanzeni, where the municipality like Bushbuck-Ridge, Mbombela, and Nkomazi are already experiencing water stress, boreholes are drying and dams are failing, but the provincial government continue to issue water licenses to corporations that extract recklessly. Gertsibande, which include Msugalikwa and Chief Albert Lituli, suffers recurring flood and soil erosion that destroy formal settlement and farmland. But instead of building resilient infrastructure, the province is obsessed with hosting summit that produces no tangible action. Honorable Speaker, the EFF is clear. We reject the commodification of environment. Our founding manifesto commits to protect and rehabilitate our neutral ecosystem through the state-led investment in climate-resilient infrastructure. We call for climate-proofing human settlement, raise floor levels in flood-prone areas, construct green infrastructure like wetlands and eco barriers, and immediately halt the issuing of building permits on unstable high-risk land. Honorable Speaker, the climate crisis is not tomorrow's problem, it is here, and our people, especially the poor, the landless, and the homeless are already dying in front of it. The ANC government has no political will to deal with the crisis. The EFF stands ready to govern with discipline, with a proper environmental agenda, and with a radical intention to protect both people and planet. I thank you,
The
Honorable
time is
Speaker.
up. Honorable Weber, you are given 4 minutes.
Madam Speaker, it is beyond any doubt that coal-fired power stations are contributing to global warming and to climate change. The question is, can we do something about it? Yes, we can. I've already suggested that we seriously consider generating power by means of coral pebble bed nuclear power stations, which are already being used in several countries, and more, other countries are considering to use them. The question is, what can municipalities do? And then the question is, must we wait until a disaster strikes, or must we act in time? I've already pointed out in a previous debate that these coral pebble bed nuclear power stations can be broken up in smaller modular units. And it has been proposed and suggested, for instance, to the Mkondo municipality, that we should investigate the possibility of doing something like that in that area. The big companies around Mkondo municipality were prepared to fund the investigation, so that the investigation into the possibility of introducing these systems wouldn't have cost any money to the municipality, but that the municipality and the ANC government is putting obstacles all the time in the way of the possible solution to our problem. I want to seriously once again suggest, because we will eventually have to phase out the coal-fired power stations, that we seriously consider to investigate the possibility to timelessly switch to coral pebble bed nuclear power systems, because these systems are clean, they are safe, and they can be erected at a cost that is manageable. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I suggest that we do not wait until a disaster strikes, but that we act in time, and that all the municipalities, and specifically Mkondo municipality, where the big companies are prepared to fund the investigation, that we don't waste time and we act immediately. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Mashiane, and you're given 4 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this important debate on the devastating and ongoing effects of climate change, and more specifically on the readiness of our province and its municipalities to respond to disasters such as wildfires. Let me begin by affirming what Honorable Masango has raised. Climate change is not a looming threat. It is a present reality. Across Mpumalanga, we see the increasingly severe consequences of rising temperatures, erratic rainfall patterns, droughts, and the growing frequency of wildfires that destroys homes, agricultural land, and threaten both human and animal life. Honorable Speaker, as Action SA, we believe that any honest debate on preparedness must begin with a frank admission our province is simply not ready. We do not have an integral provincial disaster response strategy that adequately brings together the departments of cooperative governance, agriculture, health, environmental affairs, and safety and security. Municipalities still work in silos, and this fragmentation leaves communities dangerously exposed. We must ask, where is the intergovernmental coordination? Where are the scenario plans? Where is the budgeted decentralized response framework that enables quick deployment of firefighting equipment, medical support, and food relief when disaster strikes? In rural municipalities, the communities often resort to extinguishing wildfires with buckets and branches. Firefighting units are non-existent, and local disaster management centers are poorly staffed and underfunded. A 2023 Auditor General's report indicated that less than half of Mpumalanga's municipalities have functional disaster response plans, and fewer still had updated risk assessments that account for climate change. Honorable Speaker, we must also recognize that disaster preparedness is not only about emergency response. It's about prevention and community empowerment. Where are the early warning systems that alert communities to high-risk periods? Where are the training programs for community on fire awareness, especially in informal settlements and farming communities? The unchecked destruction of wetlands, illegally sand mining, and poor enforcement of environmental regulations are compounding the effects of climate change. Honourable Speaker, Action SA calls for the following urgent intervention: the tabling of a provincial climate risk and disaster preparedness report that outlines current vulnerabilities and maps of all high-risk areas in Mpumalanga, the ring-fencing of budget allocations within municipalities, the capacitation of local disaster units, community-based disaster training programs, and revitalization of fire protection associations in rural and agricultural areas. Honourable Speaker, we cannot afford to treat climate change as a seasonal issue. It is a permanent crisis demanding a permanent shift in how we plan, budget, and govern. If we fail to act now, we will only see more failed fires and floods. We will be responsible for the growing loss of lives, livelihood, and natural heritage in our province. Let us not debate just for the sake of speaking. Let us commit to preparing Mpumalanga for a future that is already upon us. I thank you.
Now call upon the Honorable Demande, and you're given 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to you and the honorable members. Honorable Speaker, our province have a number of industries and mining companies that contribute to climate change, wherein greenhouse gases that are released through human activities, clearing of forest for agriculture, urbanization, and lodging contributes to climate change. In our municipality, we have in the industrial agriculture like monoculture farming and livestock production that contribute to greenhouse gases emission. Honorable Speaker, the impact of climate change within our province and municipalities is very huge and sometimes not really manageable. The impact of climate change includes the following, among other things: rising global temperatures. And an increase on average global temperature will always lead to more frequent and severe heat waves, drought, and storm. Our province and most of our towns are vulnerable to these conditions, and in many instances we lack capacity to deal with such unfortunate act of nature. Honorable Speaker, climate change is linked to the increase of extreme weather events like hurricanes, wildfire, and floods. Our towns and districts in Mpumalanga are not spared the bad weather patterns, and it is our belief that most of our towns and not financially resourced to deal with failed fires. Municipalities can afford to procure a fire engine which would be of assistance to the communities needing rescuing. Hurricanes and floods would be catastrophic given to the inadequate sources within municipalities. We are already experiencing water shortages due to inadequate resources, and this kind of water scarcity will be devastating. The consequences of climate change in our province and municipalities are very dire and manifest in the following. Climate change can force people to migrate or be displaced due to rising sea level, more frequent natural disaster, or decreased livelihood opportunities. The demand to infrastructure increase, healthcare cost, and loss of productivity. Honorable Speaker, it can also lead to disruption to food that can lead to food insecurity and malnutrition. As I said before, most municipalities are inadequate prepared to deal with climate change. We as the Mkhonto Sizwe Party advise that government should encourage transmission to renewable energy, which is a shift from fossil fuel to renewable sources of energy like solar and wind power, improvement of energy efficiency in building, transportation, and industry is also encourage. Honourable Speaker, in my conclusion, one effective way in addressing the climate change is to implement suitable land use practices like agroforestry and permaculture. We would also invest in infrastructure that can stand the impact of climate change. We therefore call upon the provincial government to empower municipality with strategies which will help build resilient to climate change and mitigate its impact. I thank you.
Honorable Nkambule, you're given 4 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Greetings to your good self and all honorable members. The EFF support the motion by Honorable Masango with additions that follows. In 2013, in the State of Province address, Premier, the late David Mabuza, made mention of the impact and disaster that comes with the climate change. He mentioned that government of Mpumalanga signed up MOU with stakeholders within the province. Sasol was one that was to assist with water disasters, and the people of Secunda and Balenhle find themselves into date. So we need to know the progress made, and if not, what are the reasons for the challenges? In 2017, Premier Refile made mention of climate change adoption strategy, which laid out how climate change is expected to impact water availability, agriculture, human health, disaster management, etc. If our government knew all these challenges, we should be by now discussing budget for each municipality, district, and region, including monitoring committees and stakeholders. The EFF conclude by saying, indeed, the province readiness to curb the risk mitigation and risk association with this impact of climate change in the province and municipalities are not ready at all. I thank you.
Honorable Mafimbela, you are given 8 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, Honorable members of the Executive, Honorable members of the Legislature, all people in the platform, good morning. Madam Speaker, it is an honor for me to participate in this important debate on the preparedness of the province, district, and local municipalities on the precautionary measures in place to mitigate the severe impacts of these disasters. South Africa has since the 1980s experienced a progressive increase in natural disasters such as floods, droughts, wildfires, and storms, and they have significantly affected communities in the country. To this end, the province of KwaZulu-Natal, the East Coast, is, according to Wopape of 2025, the most affected with floods and storms as the most prevalent disasters, with the eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality recording the most events. Our proximity to the East Coast as the Mpumalanga province has not spared us from the impact of the natural disasters in our country. Honorable members, our country has gone through different tropical cyclones, including the devastating cyclone Domonia of 1984. And to this end, our province has in the past, in the post-1994 era, set up disaster management functions in the 3 districts to mitigate the challenges resulted by natural disasters. Honorable members, as I acknowledge the above, allow me to raise few measures that we need to do. A need for early warning systems to alert our people of looming disasters. Our people must also comply with the precautionary measures that are implemented in their communities. South Africa have passed the Disaster Management Act of 57 of 2002, which requires localized early warning systems for floods, fires, and drought. It is because of the above establishment that has ensured that our province was, in the year 2024, been able to mitigate the consequence of the potential drought and what was looming day zero in Garsibande district. Our ability to monitor dam levels and water source served us from the west.
Clearly, what we need to implement is an integrated approach to disaster in line with Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act number 13 of 2005. Our province and local government are in the main managing disasters under the guidance of cooperative governance, human settlements, traditional affairs, which is called STAR. The consequence of felt fires has been minimal, thanks to the public education and alert driven by COGSTA and local government through every dry season. However, our people remain at risk of flood due to illegal land use and occupational flood lines. We must collectively intensify public education and mobilization to avoid human settlement in high-risk zones like floodplains and fire-prone areas. To this end, we have the country adopted the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act, SPLUMA, number 16 of 2013. There is a need, therefore, to increase our compliance with SPLUMA. Some of our communities, of our municipalities, have installed alternative sources of energy at our water treatment plants to mitigate the challenges resulted by the problem of load shedding. We must progressively increase solar energy supply at all government buildings in the province and local municipalities. Lastly, we must phase in climate change response measures into our integrated development planning and the district development model to ensure that climate change is incorporated in our risk assessment. We clearly must intensify our integrated response to disaster. I thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Rovema again, 8 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and greetings to your good self and the House at large. Honorable Speaker, listening to all the debates today, I realize that climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. Mpumalanga, with its stunning natural beauty and rich biodiversity, is particularly vulnerable to its impacts. Rising temperatures, changing rainfall patterns, and increased frequency of extreme weather events are having a devastating effect on our environment, economy, and communities. The effects of climate change are far-reaching and can be seen in every aspect of our daily lives, such as droughts impacting agriculture and water security, the increased risk of wildfires, like my colleague, Honorable Masango, has mentioned, the loss of livelihood and economic instability, as well as health risk from the heat and disease outbreaks, and lastly, the displacement and migration of community. Honorable Speaker, Mpumalanga citizens are migrating primarily due to increased drought and floods, which affects their livelihoods and food security, particularly for emerging farmers. This leads to internal migration, with some individuals moving to urban centers within the province or seeking opportunities in other provinces. Local government has a responsibility and control over certain operations that release greenhouse emissions, such as transportation, urban planning, and waste management. With this, local government can implement low-carbon infrastructure and inspire sustainable practices in waste management. For example, with improved recycling rates and green transportation systems and infrastructure. However, most municipalities lack comprehensive climate change adaptation strategies, which further exacerbate these challenges. Honorable Speaker, Mpumalanga must prioritize climate change resilience infrastructure, sustainable agriculture practices, renewable energy solutions, disaster risk reduction and management, community education and engagement. We need to ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker, is Mpumalanga prepared to face the challenges of climate change? Have we taken sufficient measures to mitigate its impacts? Honorable Speaker, I urge that this government of Mpumalanga and its leaders to develop and implement comprehensive climate strategies, invest in climate resilient initiatives, foster partnership for climate action, support climate change research and development, empower communities to help themselves to overcome the challenges and become self-sustainable. Together we can build a sustainable future for the residents of Mpumalanga. We owe it to ourselves, our children, and the future generations. Honorable Speaker, let's talk action today. Let's work together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote sustainable practices, support climate resilient developments. Let's educate our communities, Honorable Speaker. Let's teach our people what is climate change. Our communities do not understand what is the meaning of climate change because they cut off trees. There are yards that if you drive through Mpumalanga, that you find yards that don't even have a green tree in their yards. This shows that people do not know what is climate change. Honorable Speaker, it's very important that we educate our communities and teach them to plant trees and to save oxygen. The time, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, is now. Mpumalanga's future depends on it. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion as tabled by Honorable S.J. Masango. Agreed to?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
So agreed. The Secretary shall read the first order of the day.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. Order number 1, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Finance on the Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill 2025 B3 2025. Second reading, Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill 2025 B3 2025.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Finance, Honorable Elsie Dlamini, to table the report on the Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill 2025 B3 of 2025.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My greetings to you and to all members on the platform, everyone. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity and the Mpumalanga Bill number 3 of 2025 for the House to consider. I do want to say on Premier, as the committee, we met on Wednesday and we duly adopted the report. I therefore table the bill before the House to consider. Thank you very much.
Now, honorable members, we shall proceed with the voting process. You are all requested to remain connected for the duration of the voting period. In terms of Rule 192, subsection 5, I shall now go through the Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill 2025 vote by vote. Leaders of each political party are requested to cast their votes on behalf of their present connected members and also indicate the total number of members that they are representing. Vote 1, Office of the Premier, that an amount of 493,827,000 rand be approved by the House. Those who say yes and those who say no will indicate. I will start from the ANC, followed by MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA. ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. 25 members are in support of the bill. Thank you.
MK.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. 8 members of MK say yes.
EFF.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The EFF accept.
DA.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The DA also supports.
Freedom Front Plus.
Madam Speaker, the Freedom Front Plus has had a caucus on this issue, and it was unanimously decided to support.
Action SA.
Honorable Speaker, Action SA supports.
A vote to.
I told you we were unanimous in agreement.
Vote to Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature that an amount of 549,137,000 rand be approved by the House in the following order: ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA. Start ANC.
Thank you very much. ANC in support, 25 members. Thank you.
MK.
Thank you very much. 8 members in support.
EFF.
We support our salaries, Honorable Speaker.
DA.
Support, Speaker.
Freedom Front Plus.
Once again, Madam Speaker, we have caucused, unanimously decided to support.
Action SA.
Support, Madam Speaker.
Vote 3, Provincial Treasury, that an amount of 647,494,000 rand be approved by the House. Those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. We'll start from ANC, followed by MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA. In that order. ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. 25 members support.
MK.
8 members support.
EFF.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus.
Caucused and decided to support.
Action SA.
Support, Madam Speaker.
A vote for Department of Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs, that an amount of 2,360,127,000 rand be approved by the House. Those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. We'll start from ANC, followed by MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA.
Thank you very much, Speaker. ANC support.
MK, 8 members support.
EFF.
EFF support. EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus.
Freedom Fighters support.
Action SA support.
Vote 5, Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs, that an amount of 1,615,634,000 rand be approved by the House. Those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. We'll start ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
Thank you, Speaker. ANC support.
MK, 8 members support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA support.
Vote 6, Department of Economic Development and Tourism, that an amount of 1,324,261,000 rand be approved by the House. Those who say yes and those who say no must indicate. We will start ANC, MK, followed by EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
ANC, 25 members support.
8 members MK support.
EFF support.
ANC. Why? How? What? Now you are saying 28. Now you are saying 25. Which number is that?
I've never said 28, Honorable Sidibe.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA support.
Vote 7, Department of Education, that an amount of 28,732,000 642,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes must indicate, and those who say no must indicate. We start ANC, followed by MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
Speaker, ANC 25 members support. Thank you.
8 members MK support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA supports.
Vote 8, Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport, that an amount of 5,876,915,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. Will start from ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
Speaker, ANC 25 members support.
8 members MK support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Speaker, the Freedom Front Plus does not support this on the basis that this is not enough. It mustn't be 5 billion, it must be 10 billion.
Action SA.
Action SA supports.
Vote 9, Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison, that an amount of 2,144,260,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. Will start from ANC, followed by MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
Speaker, 25 members ANC support.
8 members MK support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA supports.
Department of Health, which is vote 10, that an amount of 19,750,975,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. We'll start from ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA.
25 members ANC support.
MK 8 members support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA supports.
Vote 11, Department of Culture, Sport and Recreation, that an amount of 812,298,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will indicate. ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, and Action SA, in that order.
ANC 25 members support.
MK support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA support.
Vote 12, Department of Social Development, that an amount of 1,877,527,000 rand be approved by the House, and those who say yes will indicate, and those who say no will also indicate. We'll start ANC, MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, in that order.
ANC 25 members support.
8 members MK support.
EFF support.
DA supports.
Freedom Front Plus supports.
Action SA support.
Now the question before the House is whether the sum of 66,185,097,000 rand be appropriated for the requirements of the Mpumalanga province for the financial year 2025-2026. 2026. Are we agreed to do so?
Are we agreed to do so? Speaker, 25 members support.
25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25 members support. 25
Agreed.
Agreed.
Furthermore, do you agree to adopt the report of the Portfolio Committee on Finance on Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill 2025 as tabled by Honorable Elsie Dlamini? Agreed to?
Agreed.
Agreed. The Secretary shall read the second order of the day.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Order number 2, third reading, short title, Mpumalanga Appropriation Act 2025.
The Secretary shall read the third order of the day.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Order number 3, snap debate on Women's Month.
I have a speakers list in front of me. I will call upon Honorable T.S. Koza, and you are given 5 minutes, sorry about that, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to your good self, all honorable members, officials, and members of the public in this platform. Honorable Speaker, as we rise in honor of Women's Month, we do so not as a ceremonial obligation, but as a call to remembrance, resistance, and renewal. We salute the bravery of the more than 20,000 women who, on the 9th of August 1956, marched to the Union buildings to declare Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbogoto. Those women were not marching for themselves alone. They were marching for the dignity of the domestic worker, the mother in the village, the student on campus, and the unborn generations whose voices they carried on their tired feet. Honorable Speaker, today, almost 70 years later, the struggle continues, not against past laws, but against gender-based violence, economic exclusion, unequal pay, and triple burden women still carry as workers, caregivers, and community builders. We commend the strides made under the leadership of the African National Congress-led government, particularly the progressive legislative frameworks, the increase in women representation in parliament and legislatures, and access to healthcare and education for the girl child. However, the fight is far from over, Honorable Speaker. Too many women still go to bed hungry. Too many daughters are buried before they realize their dreams. Too many reports gather dust while perpetrators roam free. Too many of our rural women remain excluded from meaningful economic participation. And yes, too many institutions still regard women's empowerment as a favor, not as a constitutional imperative. Honorable Speaker, Women's Month must not be reduced to flowers and luncheons. It must be a time for recommitment. The time for slogans is over. We need action, we need accountability, we need transformation, not only in policies, but in power relations, in boardrooms, classrooms, and council chambers. Let us speak boldly. Gender equality is not a women's issue. It is a societal issue. Patriarchy will not collapse on its own. It must be dismantled deliberately, consistently, and unapologetically. As this legislature, we must ensure that every budget, every policy, every oversight visit, and every committee meeting consciously addresses the lived realities of women, especially those in informal settlement, in rural areas, and in the shadows of the economy. Let us invest in women-led cooperatives, women in farming, STEM education for girls, and support systems for gender-based violence survivors. Let us demand better policing, swift justice, and community mobilization to make our province a safer place for every woman and child. Honorable Speaker, as we celebrate Women's Month, let us recommit to building a province and a country where no girl is told she is less than, no mother has to choose between food and dignity, and no woman has to live in fear. We owe it to Mama Lilian Goy, Mama Albertina Sisulu, Mama Charlotte Maklage, and all the unsung heroines whose courage brought us here. Let our actions say what words cannot. We will not rest until South Africa is a safe, just and equal place for all its women. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I will now call upon the Honorable Bongani Mtweni, and you're given 6 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, members of legislature, ladies and gentlemen, Lochan. Honorable Speaker, ke kopa hore ke dumedise kaofela bo maitshwara ka bohaleng, ke re dumelang bo maitshwara ka bohaleng. Honorable Speaker, as we gather today to celebrate Women's Day and Women's Month, Umkhonto weSizwe Party would like to acknowledge the significant contribution women of Mpumalanga have made to our society. As we reflect on the role of variation parties in promoting gender equality, my party MK has been instrumental in advocating for women's rights and empowerment. Key issues to be highlighted during the month where we celebrate women are the following. Number one, advocacy for women's rights. The call to amplify our voices in addressing the injustice faces by women, in emphasizing particularly when look at injustices like gender-based violence, economic inequality, and the lack of representation in leadership position. Number two, empowerment initiatives. We as Umkhonto weSizwe Party, we are committed to initiate programs aimed to empowering women, such as skill development, economic support, and mentorship initiatives. We need to encourage support for women-owned business and initiatives that promote economic equality. Number three, policy reforms. We are calling on the 7th administration to push for policy reforms that will benefit women, including laws that will protect women's rights and promote gender equality. Implementing all laws like Employment Equity Act to promote gender equality and eliminate discrimination. They surely do ensure equitable representation in the workplace. Honorable Speaker, we still face challenges as women. These challenges relate to violence against women, which remain a significant concern, requiring continued efforts to prevent and support victims. Underrepresentation in leadership is other challenge in a country that has more women than men. It is clear that men still dominate managing level and women are underrepresented in corporate boards and leadership positions. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, women still face barriers to economic participation, including limited access to capital and job opportunity. Having mentioned some of the persistent challenges, Umkhonto weSizwe Party calls on government to raise awareness about the importance of gender equality and celebrate women's history and contribution of women to society, cultures, and politics. We also need to support programs that encourage girls and women to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM. The investment in women education, skill development, and economic opportunities will enhance women's society economic status. Honourable Speaker, MK Party urge collaboration between parties, civil societies, and government to address the challenges faced by women in all spheres of life and improve a more equitable society. We also demand accountability for from leaders to ensure that women's rights are adhered to, respected and promoted. In closing, Honorable Speaker, despite programs made in creating a normal environment that guarantees gender equality, women in Mpumalanga still faces challenges such as limited access to funding, patriarchal norms and safety concern. Umkhonto wesizwe party challenges the 7 administration to give women an opportunity to drive economic inclusion initiatives, focusing on increasing women's financial inclusion, supporting and promoting economic opportunities for women. Gone are the days where we used to say is a man's world. Today, going forward, women will participate in trade, exports, fashion shows, and other events that showcase their entrepreneurial skills and promote economical development. MK Party is committed to harness the potential of women to drive economic growth and promote inclusive development. I thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Mkabela, you're given 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it brings mixed emotions to debate under today's theme, or rather topic, Women's Month. And the reason I say so is because as a woman, surely it is confusing to understand whether we are coming or going. Honorable Speaker, we can deliver nice and sweet speeches about this month of August, but the reality is that women are suffering out there in the hands of men who claim to love and protect them. Honorable Speaker, women are the heads of families, and without them, there's nothing that can happen, from giving birth to raising children, as well as taking care of their husbands and other family members. But in return, they don't receive the support, love, and respect they deserve. Speaker, it is heartbreaking to celebrate August month, the so-called Women's Month, while year in and year out, there's a high rate of killings of women. Speaker, women today are flooding the gun shops to get their own guns for their protection because they are scared for their lives, while there's no one assuring them of their safety. Honorable Speaker, surely there's nothing to celebrate if we fail to keep up with what the women of 1956 stood up for. Honorable Speaker, women deserve safety, kindness, comfort, and peace of mind. Honorable Speaker, there's a great saying that goes like this: history is the teacher of life. Speaker, what has the history of the women of 1956 taught us? Or let me rather phrase my question in this form. Speaker, have we learned anything from the women of 1956 who left everything behind and took it upon themselves to march to the Union building just to say enough is enough? This is the question, Honorable Speaker, I am posing to this August House as we commemorate 69 years since the said march took place. Honorable Speaker, today I do not wish to speak about history, even though I am fully aware that examining the past can offer valuable lessons for the present and future. Today, I wish to talk about the present because just maybe the present can shape the future. Honorable Speaker, as I speak now, there is a family of a young woman somewhere in Emalahleni preparing to bury their daughter after being brutally killed by unknown assailants. There is a family in Mganduzweni still searching for their missing little daughter who just vanished through thin air. Honorable Speaker, somewhere in Gomazi, there is a girl child-headed household family living in a shack and still queuing for an RDP house and social grant. Speaker, somewhere in Mkondo, there is a young victim of rape who is being mocked at and denied healthcare attention and an opportunity to open a police case. Honorable Speaker, somewhere in Bushbuckridge, there are women who share water with donkeys and cows from streams and wells. Honorable Speaker, these are some of the many present circumstances women live under. Yet I ask again, have we learned anything from the women of 1956? My answer as a woman to this question is a big no. Honorable Speaker, today this debate is not about political affiliations or political scoring whatsoever, but I believe that today it's the time for all of us to join hands and work together, just like how the women of 1956 did. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I am tempted to say that the ruling party has failed the women of 1956 and has not learned anything from that history, but I will just pass without saying it out loud. But I will not have done justice to the present women if I finish this speech without saying it out loud that the ruling party is failing them, because up to today,
There's still no proper plan to fight the scourge of GBV. RDP houses still controlled by corrupt officials and given to those who do not need them the most. And water projects halted because corrupt ANC politicians stole the money. Honorable Speaker, let's pause a bit and ask ourselves this question. Are we doing justice to the women of 1956? My answer to it is a big no. I thank you.
Honorable Malapeng, 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity afforded to me to participate in this important debate. The theme for Women's Month in South Africa in 2025 is Accelerate Action, Rights, Equality, Empowerment for all women and girls. This theme emphasizes the need to take decisive action and increase momentum towards achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls. It also coincides with the global call for accelerate action for International Women's Day on the 8th of March 2025. The leaders of the 1956 Women's March in South Africa were Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Albertina Sisulu, and Sophia William de Bruyn. The marchers presented a petition with 14,000 signatures to the Prime Minister's secretary. As the Prime Minister refuses to meet with them, the women stood in silence for 30 minutes before singing a freedom song, Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbogod, which translates to "You strike the woman, you strike a rock." This song became the apartheid movement. Honorable Speaker, the theme highlights several key areas: right, ensuring all women and girls have access to their fundamental rights; equality, working towards a future where women and girls have the same opportunities and outcomes as men and boys; empowerment, providing women and girls with the resources, support, and agency they need to reach their full potential. Honorable Speaker, it should be noted that the focus on accelerate action acknowledges that at the current rate of progress, it will take until 2158 to achieve full gender parity, according to data from the World Economic Forum. Therefore, the theme calls for a sense of agency and a commitment to breaking down systemic barriers and biases that prevent women from achieving their goals. The South African government, including our Mpumalanga provincial government, along with various organizations and individuals, will be commemorating Women's Month with a range of activities and initiatives aimed at promoting those key themes. This includes events, campaigns, and educational initiatives designed to raise awareness, inspire actions, and celebrate the achievement of women and girls. Honorable Speaker, as we all know that every year in August, South Africa celebrates Women's Month to pay tribute to the more than 20,000 women who marches to the Union Building on the 9th of August 1956. This protects the extension of past law to women. The commemoration also allows us to take stock of achievement and challenges that remain while mobilizing for the further development of women. The significance of Women's Month must be analyzed. Women have once again shown that the stereotype of women as politically inept and immature, tied to the home, was outdated and inaccurate. Honorable Speaker, we must also remind this august House of the following ongoing impact. Continued fight for equality. Despite progress, women in South Africa continue to face challenges such as economic inequality, gender-based violence, and limited access to education and employment opportunities. Empowering future generations, the legacy of
Conclude, Honorable Member.
As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, the African National Congress in its National Congress has several key resolutions on women emancipation, focusing on promoting gender equality and empowering women in South Africa. Some of these resolutions include promoting women's participation. The ANC aims to promote women's participation in every sector of public life and strive for women's participation in every office, ensuring that women have a strong voice in decision-making processes, addressing violence against women. The ANC prioritized campaign for an end to all forms of violence against women, children, and other vulnerable groups. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Marshall, you are given 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Madam Speaker, Honorable members, the media, and above all, the resilient women of Mpumalanga. 69 years ago, on the 9th of August 1956, 20,000 women marched onto the Union buildings. They confronted an apartheid state that denied their very personhood, and with their courage, they bequeathed to us this annual observance of Women's Day. That march was not a celebration, it was an act of defiance against structural violence. Our task today is measured to ourselves against their standard and to ask on
Honorable Marshall. Can you proceed to Honorable Weber, and you are given 2 minutes? Honorable Mashiane, can you please mute your mic? Honorable Weber, 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, as you know, I do not read speeches written by some secretary because I do not want to tell you what my secretary wants to tell you. I want to tell you what I think. Therefore, I speak from the heart, but in this case it's different because I've just been reminded that if you titumfazi, I must be very careful. Therefore, I have decided to use the assistance of my secretary, and I will read a speech to make absolutely sure that I do not make a mistake. Madam Speaker, Women's Month should not be reduced to hashtags, hollow speeches, or empty symbolism. Women's Month, Women's Month, the Freedom Front Plus honors women not only with empty slogans, with action, truth, and respect. We remember the Boer women in the Anglo-Boer War who held families and farms together while the British scorched the land. Over 26,000 women and children died in concentration camps. Yet these women remained unbroken. They preserved faith, culture, and identity in our darkest hour. Today's women still face hardships, violence, corruption, economic insecurity, and they deserve more than symbolic gestures. Women need safety, dignity, and the freedom to build strong families and communities. The Freedom Front Plus will always stand for the women who carry this nation, not as victims, but as pillars of strength. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Your time is up, Honorable Weber.
No, I've already concluded.
Honorable Mashiane, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we rise to mark Women's Day, we do so not just to honor history, but to confront the present. But today, Honorable Speaker, our battle continues. Though the battlefield has shifted, today we fight for equality in the economy, justice in our homes and communities, and safety in our streets. In the economy, women remained underrepresented, underpaid, and undervalued. Women dominate the informal sector and yet struggle to access capital markets and land. In rural Mpumalanga, women are the backbone of farming, caregiving, and household survival, but they remain locked out of real economic decision-making. In 2025, women should not still be fighting for equal pay for equal work. Women should not still be excluded from the boardroom, the mineshaft, or the ownership of land. Economic liberation for women is not a favor, it's a constitutional obligation. If we're serious about empowering women, then we must resource them, fund them, and recognize them as economic drivers, not as a social issue to be managed. In Mpumalanga, women live in fear of being raped, assaulted, or killed, often by the very men they love or trust. Gender-based violence is not just a crime, it is a symptom of a society where women's lives are not valued equally. We cannot allow our country to be a place where being a woman is a risk factor. The justice system must protect women. Police stations must be safe spaces, not sites of secondary trauma. And the state must stop underfunding shelters, victim support services, and trauma counseling. No woman should have to choose between staying in an abusive home or sleeping on the streets with her children. Dignity, safety, and freedom from fear are not negotiable. Honorable Speaker, our laws may speak of equality, but rarely tells a different story. Until girls in rural Mpumalanga can access sanitary products, education, and safety on their walk to school, we are failing them. Until female farmers have title deeds and women-owned businesses are prioritized in procurement, we are betraying the promise of 1994. We must ensure that gender mainstreaming. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Marshall. Honorable Marshall. Can I proceed to Honorable Maketsi, 5 minutes?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker. What's that echo? Honorable Premier, members of Executive, Honorable members of Provincial Legislature, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good day. Honorable Speaker, as we mark the beginning of Women's Month, we must pause and reflect, not only to celebrate the remarkable gains we have made, but to ask the urgent and difficult questions about how far we still have to go, especially in the struggle of economic transformation that meaningfully includes women in general and Black women in particular, as owners, managers, producers, financiers, innovators, landholders, industrialists, policymakers, investors, technologists, entrepreneurs, and leaders in every sector. Honorable Speaker, allow me to remind this House that patriarchy remains a stubborn, systematic force that cuts across class, race, and age. It manifests in power relations that continue to marginalize women in our homes, in our workplaces, in our churches, and in our economy. It is patriarchy that drives fathers to abuse their own children. It is patriarchy that turns intimate partners into murderers. It is patriarchy that forces our grandmothers to live in fear with their own grandchildren. To defeat patriarchy, we must go beyond symbolism and engage in real structural transformation. The ANC, Honorable Speaker, recognizes this truth, and that is why since 1994, we have made women's emancipation a non-negotiable pillar of our democratic project. Honorable Speaker, this year marks 107 years since the formation of the Bantu Women's League, the forerunner of the ANC Women's League, led by fearless Mama Charlotte Maxeke. She understood then what we must act on now, that true liberation is non-sexist, non-racial, and anti-exploitative. As we honor her legacy, we must ask ourselves, are we advancing Black women into positions of economic leadership with the same urgency and determination? Honorable Speaker, the ANC government has invested deliberately in improving the material conditions of women through progressive legislation like the Employment Equity Act, the Promotion of Equality Act, and the Domestic Violence Amendment Act of 2022. We have dismantled the legal scaffolding of patriarchy, but more must be done. Honorable Speaker, let us be honest. The face of poverty remains Black, rural, and female. Women bear the brunt of unemployment. Women are last to be hired and first to be fired. They are underpaid, overlooked, underrepresented in executive decision-making, especially in key sectors like finance, mining, and technology. This must change. The ANC believes that economic justice for women is not a favor. It is a constitutional imperative. That is why we support affirmative procurement, women-focused enterprise development, and gender-responsive budgeting.
because when you invest in women, you uplift families, communities, and the nation. Honourable Speaker, according to the land audit, women own only 13% of farms and agricultural land, despite constitutional and international commitments to gender equality. This imbalance must change to ensure inclusive economic development and social justice, particularly in rural areas where land is a critical resource for livelihoods and empowerment. The Commission for Gender Equality further stresses that meaningful land reform must adopt a gendered approach, ensuring women, youth, and people with disability are prioritized in redistribution, restitution, and tenure reform efforts. Honourable Speaker, we also confront the plague of gender-based violence and femicide, which continues to threaten the lives, dignity, and freedom of millions of women. The ANC has not turned a blind eye. We have passed the Criminal Law Amendment Act, which closes loopholes and strengthens the fight against sexual violence, but legislation alone can break cycles of abuse. We need social mobilization, policy reform, survivor support, and economic independence. We must flag that no woman should live in fear within our democracy. As we reflect, Honourable Speaker, we pay tribute to the women of 1956, those courageous marchers who declared, Wathinta Bafazi, Wathinta Mbogodo. They were not merely posters, they were evolutionaries, just like the women of today, who fight not only for survival, but inclusion, dignity, and power. Let us not forget the women who fall outside traditional framework, the disabled, the LGBTQIA+ community, women in rural areas, and informal settlement. The ANC government has adopted inclusive legislation like the Civil Union Act and the Alteration of Sex Description and Sex Status Act, which recognizes the full spectrum of women in South Africa. Honourable Speaker, as members of the global and African community, we cannot remain silent about the plight of women in war zone and conflict areas. Rape as a weapon of war must be condemned without exception. That is why we support African Union Silencing the Guns initiative and continue to promote peace and security on the continent. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Wathinta Bafazi, Wathinta Mbogodo. Thank you.
Honourable Marshall.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I want to apologise profusely for my technology here on this side. Honourable Madam Speaker, honourable members, the media, and above all, the resilient woman of Mpumalanga. Am I audible? I just want to ensure that I'm audible.
If we can hear you, can proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. 69 years ago, on the 9th of August 1956, 20,000 women marched onto the Union buildings. They confronted an apartheid state that denied their very personhood, and by their courage, they bequeathed to us this annual observance of Women's Day. The march was not a celebration, it was an act of deviance against structural violence. Our task today is to measure ourselves against their standard and to ask, with unflinching honesty, whether the daughters and granddaughters of these marchers are safer, freer, and more dignified today. The answer still shames us. Mpumalanga consistently ranks amongst the provinces with the highest incidence of sexual offences complaints. In the second quarter of 2024-2025 financial year, the province accounted for 6.3% of all such cases nationally, despite representing just over 7% of the population. According to Stats SA's most recent Governance, Public Safety and Justice survey, a fully 69.1% of households believe that the sentences handed down for gender-based violence are not long enough to protect our women. Behind every digit in these reports is a flesh and blood sister battered in their own home, a daughter living under curfew and terror of their boyfriend, a rural farm worker who must choose between employment and the predation of a supervisor. We cannot pay a ritual homage to 1956 while these private wars still continue unchecked. Yet in the midst of this darkness, there burns an unextinguishable light. The Gogos who became parents for a second time when violence or hunger robs households of adult caregivers. The mothers who rise before dawn, serve customers by day, clean offices by night, and still manage homework by the faint glow of a paraffin lamp. Their unpaid labour is an invisible scaffolding that holds our communities upright. To each grandmother wrapping calloused hands around a grandchild's lunchbox. To every mother working 2 jobs so her daughter can dare to dream beyond subsistence, we see you, we honour you, and we pledge that your sacrifice will not be squandered. Honourable members, the Provincial Council of Gender-Based Violence has been convened, rapid response teams have been launched, and an integrated GBV strategy has been adopted. These are necessary foundations, but the evidence remains unbuilt until police stations file dockets with urgency, every magistrate treats breaches of protection orders as attempted murder, and every budget line reflects the premium we place on women's lives. Let us legislate with the veracity of those who marched in 1956 by funding shelters in every district, by ring-fencing economic empowerment funds for survivors, and by insisting that tomorrow's statistics tell a story of justice rather than survival. In their name and for the sake of the next generation now sleeping in their Goga's arms, I thank you.
That concludes the SNAP debate on Women's Month, and that brings us to the end of today's business. The House is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Speaker. Announcement, Speaker, no food.
Thank you.